Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. We're continuing our work in Jeremiah chapter 6. Today we're looking at verse 13. If you remember the context, the last few verses, the Lord is bringing his announced judgment against his people. And in the couple previous verses, he's actually said that this judgment is going to come to all, young and old, men and women. The entire society has become so corrupt, and this just breaks Jeremiah's heart to have to make such an announcement. We're going to see the extent of the Lord's judgment and the reasons why in this verse here. So let's go ahead and read it in Hebrew as we get started. Ki miketanam va'ad gadolam kulo botsea batsa uminavi va'ad kohen kulo ose shaker. For, so here's once again our sort of an explanatory conjunction starting us out. And what we have here is mean, so from, you get the nun of the mean preposition assimilated into that dagesh right there. And we're going to find mean put together with ad, which is until, or right up to. So from this until this. So this is going to be sort of an expression which is going to show us a full extent. You'll see as we work through it. From katan is small, but with a suffix on it. So we have a suffix. This is a third masculine plural suffix. So from their small and until they're big. Well, this is a Hebrew way of saying from the smallest to the greatest. It's actually taking us into a superlative and a total superlative from one end to the other, from the smallest to the greatest. And then here we have kulo, which is kol with a suffix on it. And this is a 3ms suffix, which is being used in sort of a general sense, all of it. In other words, every single one. So from the smallest until the greatest, every one, all of it, every single one. Botseak batsa. You can see we have the same root here in both of these. This is obviously a participle, masculine singular participle, fully written with the holum vav, the vav as well. And this is a kal. And batsa is a verb which means to literally to cut off, but usually used in the sense of to gain something by violence or to gain it unjustly. So we would say they are seeking to gain by violence. And what is it they're seeking to gain? Batsa, this looks like a conjugated verb, but it's actually this is actually a noun from the same verbal idea, and this is unjust gain or profit. So they're seeking to gain unjust profit. In other words, they're bribes, corruption, using injustice as a means of personal benefit. And from, once again, here's our mean and ad, up until. So what do we have here? And from profit, Nabi, this is prophet, P-R-O-F-I-T over here. This is P-R-O-P-H-E-T over here. And from prophet until priest. Oh boy, that means all the ruling class, those who should have some spiritual insight and direction for the people. From the prophet until the priest, all of them, basically the same as what you have, every one over here, does or practices shaker. This is our typical word sheker, a little bit of change in the vowel here because it's at the end of the phrase with the accent. So, but this is one of Jeremiah's favorite words. Like we've said, it's 112 times in the Hebrew Old Testament. 37 of those, a full third of them, are in the book of Jeremiah. So they're practicing deceit, fraud, lying, the lie, sometimes actually with the article out in front. They're practicing the lie. So this is the reason the judgment is coming, because the entire society, both the people from the smallest to the greatest up until the leaders as well, the prophets and the priest, all of them are practicing falsehood. Nothing too complicated in its analysis, although it's a very, very sad commentary. Let's go ahead and look at a couple of translations very quickly. There's not a lot of variation in the major translations. The ESV, from the least to the greatest of them, from their small to their large, from the least to the greatest of them, everyone, kulo, is greedy for unjust gain. So that those are cognate words here in the Hebrew, as obviously you can see there. And from prophet to priest, everyone deals falsely. So pretty literal translation straight out. As I said, not a lot of variation. The New Living Translation, which is a paraphrase, from the least to the greatest, their lives are ruled by greed. Well, you don't have the idea of ruling, at least in a word here, but they are all of them greedy for greed, for unjust gain. So yeah, that's a good paraphrase. They are ruled by greed from prophets to priests. They are all frauds. They're practicing the lie. So what they are doing does not line up with what God's word says they should be doing. But they like it that way. Such a people is going to suffer God's corrective hand upon them, and that's what Jeremiah has been announcing. So hard verse to look at, but very accurate in its diagnosis. The Lord sees what's going on in his people. We'll check back with us soon as we keep working through Jeremiah chapter 6 in our weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.